time. We're going to do this exercise assuming the top two are already Kobe, or excuse me.
Oh,
no. LeBron and Jordan.
In that order, too.
In that order.
I have a feeling that you might. I have a feeling that you might have someone in mind. I don't know who it might be, but if you want to kick it off, we'll let you go first.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Well,
I'll have someone else as the third best?
I'll say who I have, but I'm not going to give all the reasoning right away. I'll let everyone else give their pick as well. But I have the late great Kobe Bryant
as the third best ever.
As the third best player to ever step on the hardwood for the National Basketball Association.
Respect.
Thomas, who do you have?
For me, I'm really toggling.
It's not easy. A lot of good guys.
It's really hard. And my three, a lot of people might have deeper in their top 10. One of them, who most people would probably have at 3, Kareem, is one of the options I've come down to. Number 2 would be Tim Duncan. But I think I'm going to go with Shaquille O'Neal as the third greatest player of all time.
So we got the dynamic duo over here. We got Kobe and Shaq.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Well, so far we've talked about 2 all-time great Lakers. 2 guys who won plenty of championships wearing the purple and gold. So let's stay in Laker country. And let's put Magic Johnson as the third best player of all time for my list. Raul.
And for me, we're going to be leaving the Lakers organization, and we're going to be going down to the beautiful state, the beautiful Lone Star State. We're going to be going southern Texas to San Antonio, and we're going to be picking the big fundamental Tim Duncan.
All right.
As my third best player of all time.
It worked out the way I wanted.
It didn't work out the way you wanted?
No, it worked out exactly the way I wanted.
Oh, he's got us cornered, huh? All right.
We're done.
I want to hear Kobe first.
Well, I'm going to start off with picking on Hutch.
And I'll go second.
Okay.
I'm going to go at Hutch just because, and for those who don't know, Hutch is a LeBron fan. And not to get off topic with the discussion, but
it's true.
Hutch, he prefers guys after 2003. Like, if you're being real, he doesn't, whenever you kind of bring up Jordan, one of his first things is, like, who do you play against? Like, who's this and who's that? So I'm kind of actually shocked he has Magic just because from the conversations we've had, he doesn't seem to really respect those eras.
I don't think it's Paul George, but
no, not to like go at you, but
little preface here. I think generally speaking, though, I'm kind of on that wave where I definitely value the new eras, and I feel like for me, and I think Hutch too, we think it's kind of like the 1980s is where that starts, where it's like 80s and beyond. That's kind of like when you start picking like the guys, if you know what I'm saying. So
yeah, well, that's a whole different discussion in terms of who's good in what era.
I wasn't trying to get off track, but I do feel like most of the time when we bring up guys from the 80s and the 90s, Hutch he scoffs at them. He doesn't.
I respect 80s and 90s.
It's
before I can't. Before
when
I
you bring up like Michael
can't.
Jordan, he goes, "Oh, like, who do you play against?" Like,
I think
who's
he's
that?
second all time. I don't think he's 20th.
All right, let's stick to Kobe. Let's hear it.
So there's a lot of reasons why you can put Kobe Bryant at third, and not to disrespect like any of the other guys like Duncan or Shaq or whoever, like Will or whoever else you want to like throw in that conversation. But there's the reasons why I have Kobe Bryant is one, he is a 5-time champion, which only a few guys have that many. Magic isn't one of them, Kareem, and one of the reasons why I also Tim Duncan as well. Yeah, sorry to. I didn't forget about him.
Let's bring it up.
I mean, there's a lot of guys, but guys who are in the top 10 conversation. I mean, you got the Havliceks and all those guys.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's also, I mean, if you're going to compare like each guy one-on-one, like Kareem, or the reason why I don't have Kareem, I have Kareem actually fourth, so I have him right in that vicinity.
Yep.
The reason why is because he does have the 6 championships and the 6 MVPs, which is more than Michael Jordan, at least like for the MVPs. It's more than LeBron for both. So he's the kind of guy you can really put in the GOAT discussion if you wanted, but most people don't, simply because he only won 2 Finals MVPs. Some of the years, like he was on a great team every single time. Like it wasn't just a duo. Like he had Worthy, he had a lot of great role players, Byron Scott, AC Green, even Magic Johnson, of course,
Oscar.
Yeah. So like they had a great team throughout. And then the Bucks championship, he was dominant in '71, but there were years there where he was going without making the playoffs in the '70s, where you probably can't even name like a couple stars in the '70s, like from the Eastern Conference. So to not even make be a top 8 team, I think is kind of
the way we do.
Yeah.
And I
So
want
what
to.
about-
I mean, there's a lot I could say, but I'll pass off to you for your next.
I just want to know what Kobe though. Why Kobe? Just the 5?
Not just that. I mean, he's also one of the greatest players on both sides of the ball that we've ever seen. Defensively, he has the same amount of all defensive appearances as Tim Duncan.
No, Tim Duncan's got more. He's got 15. Kobe's got 13.
Around the same.
And Tim Duncan played less years because he didn't go to college, or he went to college for 4 years as well. Kobe came straight out of high school and had those extra years.
But they're still up there. It's definitely one of the 2 best defenders of the 2000s. And Tim Duncan, he couldn't do what Kobe does offensively. And they're both, I think, similar on defense. Duncan never won a Defensive Player of the Year award. And whether he may have deserved it or not, Kobe was in the running. He came third a couple times. He was in the D-point running almost every year. So he's a legend on both sides of the ball. And I think in terms of Duncan, Duncan most years when Kobe had a team, you didn't see him in the finals. Most of the years he won against the Knicks in the lockout season, which that's not like the most highly looked upon finals. He won in 02-03 was the only year he won when like Kobe actually had like a real finals contending team. Every other year he won, like 06-07, Kobe had like a mediocre team at best, probably worse than even like the Cavs team LeBron had. So outside like those years, when Kobe was like had his teams, he wasn't there, and Kobe beat him in the playoffs a lot. I have a couple written down. I'm not gonna go through them all, but I know in the 07-08, Kobe beat him in 5 games and hit him with 40 or 39 in the closeout in 5 games to go to the finals. So when Kobe actually had like guys around him, like Duncan really was nowhere to be found in the playoffs.
That's fair.
I'll respond to that too. Nowhere to be found, I think, is kind of a fallacy because what happened in 03? Kobe had Shaq and still lost to Tim Duncan.
Well, I brought that up. I said outside of 02-03.
If you have Shaquille O'Neal, if you have 2 top 10 players to ever play the game in your team.
After winning a three-peat.
With Shaq as the best player on the team.
So after winning a three-peat.
With Shaq as the best
player. So he had more than Duncan at that time.
But he wasn't.
He did have more than Duncan.
He wasn't the Finals MVP.
No, but he very well. He on those runs, I have like some of them written down. He was just as close outside of the 99-2000 season, like the 2000-2001 run and the 01-02 run. He was right up there with Shaq.
But the point
in
is,
some series he was even better than Shaq.
But the
point. Why did he win a Finals MVP?
Shaq was better in the finals.
Yeah.
By a little bit, not even by like that much.
But, well, the first one he was better by a mile.
That's why I said 99-2000, the first one they won.
One thing I'll say though is that in those series, at least, when you have to play Shaq versus Duncan, it's the 2 of them as the matchup, and then you have Kobe running free.
Yeah.
So who's matching up with Kobe?
Ginobili, Parker.
They weren't on those teams yet. Parker might have been, but Ginobili came later. And Ginobili, when he first came to the Spurs,
Bruce Bowen too, one of the great defenders,
but nowhere near the level of Kobe.
Or Sean Elliott
couldn't guard him
at that point. I forget. Might have been Sean Elliott.
Or Steven Jackson, maybe, I don't know. But the point is, you have Shaq and Tim Duncan guarding each other in the paint, which makes it so much more impressive. Because David Robinson was really only there as like an elite player for the first championship that Duncan won. And when he came into the league right off the bat, in 99 he won the title. And you can talk about it being a lockout season, this, that, there's none of that. Lockout seasons don't matter. LeBron won his first ring in 2012 in a lockout year. The bubble, like, it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't say it didn't matter, but I just said, like, from some people don't view it that way, and they beat an 8th seed Knicks team too, which isn't like.
Well, do you?
No, it's a ring. Like, I don't discredit anyone's ring. You have a ring, it's a ring, no matter what, and that goes for anyone. But it was an 8th seed Knicks team, and then one of his other ones.
But Jokic you put above all those other guys. He'd be an 8-seeded Heat team in the finals, and you put him above Giannis. You put him above all those other guys.
No, I know. I didn't say like it doesn't matter, but
you're bringing
it's not the most impressive.
But you're bringing it up as points, if you know what I'm saying. You're bringing it up as, it's an asterisk because of this. But before you were saying, but he was still dominant here from start to finish in the finals.
No, I'm not saying like it doesn't matter. Like he still won it and played great. But I'm saying like they kind of act like, or not like you in general, but there's kind of a narrative that like, Duncan was out there like, when Kobe had his teams, like when he had Shaq, when he had Gasol.
When he had Shaq, exactly.
When he had actual players, because you look at like the 04-05 roster, the 06 roster, like there was no one out there. Lamar Odom was like the next best guy that was out there. So, like that's barely a team. Like people talk about the 06-07 Cavs. those Laker teams were probably worse. If you look at the roster top to bottom, like Luke Walton, he could barely even play, and he was out there putting up 9 points a game as a starter.
Yeah, but who did Tim Duncan have that was anywhere near the level of Shaquille O'Neal?
Well, he had David Robinson in the early years.
But David Robinson was coming off the injury, and Tim Duncan was the best player instantly. He grabbed the team and says, all right,
I
the
don't
Spurs are
understand
mine.
how that makes him better than Kobe Bryant. That's like what
Because he won the Finals MVP. He was the best player in the team. That's why. He came in right away and says, all right, this is my team. I'm the number 1 overall draft pick. I'm going to be great. Even though I played 4 years in college, obviously. He came right in, took the team by the scruff of the neck, won Finals MVP in his first season, and was first team All-NBA, I believe, as a rookie, if I'm not mistaken. Also, he was also first team All-Defense as a rookie as well. Second year Finals MVP, and just from there on out, it was just, he won 3 Finals MVPs, more than Kobe. He was the best player on his team 4 times as well. Even though Tony Parker won that 1 in 07, Tim Duncan was the best player on that team. Whereas with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe, you always knew Shaq is the dog. And even when you talk about Kobe having better numbers, as we know, it was a center-dominated game, and the matchups favored Kobe, obviously, because once again, when you have Tim Duncan guarding Shaq, that is more of a neutralizing factor. And the fact that Tim Duncan beat the three-peated Lakers is one of the most impressive feats, in my opinion, ever.
It's fair.
I'll let someone else join in.
Yeah.
I want to talk about all the time.
I mean, my things against Kobe. Obviously, I picked Shaq for number 3. I just can't get there with Kobe. I have Kobe around 8 in my top 10 because wasn't rookie of the year. Obviously, Magic wasn't rookie of the year, but that one was more controversial because he also went against another top 5 player of all time, Larry Bird, and lost to him. Tim Duncan was the rookie of the year. Shaq was the rookie of the year. Kareem was the rookie of the year. All these other guys, and Michael Jordan and LeBron, obviously. Not the end-all be-all, but they came in ready. Kobe goes and wins 3 championships with Shaq. Shaq wins all 3 Finals MVPs. So automatically, I can't put Kobe above Shaq in my list. So then Kobe goes and plays with Pau Gasol, and he wins 2 more. And now he has 5 total. Shaq had 4 total. To me, just the 3 Finals MVPs over Kobe just put Shaq above Kobe, and that just instantly puts my argument to rest with that one. They also both have 1 MVP. So there's nothing to me that really separates Kobe from Shaq other than they were on the same team, and all 3 of the finals wins, Shaq was the best player. My next point, you got Tim Duncan. He also won 5 championships. He was a 3-time Finals MVP, as was Shaq. So, to me, they're both really close.
And Tim Duncan, too, was also a 2-time MVP. That's something to point out.
He was also a 2-time MVP. But we could also, some of us would acknowledge, I don't know if Mike would agree, that Shaq was the best player in the league for a long time, and he might have deserved a couple more MVPs.
3 to 5 years, something like that. Yeah.
Then Tim Duncan has the all-defense numbers that you could cite. He has, how many time all-defense?
15.
15-time all-defense, 8-time first team, 7-time second team. Shaq is only 3-time second team. But all-time, Shaq has 2,732 blocks, and Tim has 3,000 blocks. But per game, Shaq averaged more blocks. So, to me, it seems like it's a little bit of a skewed system. And obviously, they're going to be competing because they were in the same time, pretty much, where they were in their primes. And they have to pick one center based on actually, I guess Shaq was only making the second team. I just don't understand. Maybe I would have had to watch more, but that seems just like an interesting stat to point out that Shaq averaged more blocks a game than Tim, yet has a fifth of the amount of all defensive teams. To me, Shaq's peak is the highest peak of anybody except LeBron and Jordan, and that doesn't necessarily decide where you rank, but I just feel like he was absurdly talented. I mean, nobody could stop him. And it was pretty short-lived, his prime. Even though he won with the Heat, he only averaged about 13 points a game. He wasn't great when he won the championship with the Heat. So
he was good those first 2 years, though. He wasn't good in the year that they won the chip,
yes.
but the year before, he was in the MVP race. I think Steve Nash kind of robbed him there.
Yeah, I don't know what caused him to be that low of a scorer. I mean, I know Wade averaged 35 in that finals. So there's every player I think on here is going to have knocks.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Duncan, I mean, the other guys who are winning the finals MVPs on his team, you wouldn't put those guys ahead of guys like Dwayne Wade, who won the finals MVP. You wouldn't put them above Kobe.
You wouldn't.
So the fact that he was losing some of those finals MVPs with those guys might be a little bit of a knock. And the voters might have had some interesting takes with the all defensive stats as well. Hutch, who did you say? You said Magic?
Yeah.
My other thing with Magic, and this is my thing with Magic and Kareem, it might sound weird, and it might also slightly contradict my Kobe Shaq one, but Magic and Kareem, to me, neither of them is top three because they needed each other. And you could say Kobe needed Shaq as well, and Shaq needed Kobe, which is true. I'd probably have Kareem at 4 or 5 and Tim in the other spot. And then I might even put Bird over Magic and have Magic at 6. But I don't know. Kareem having 2 out of the 6 finals MVPs is not awesome. And then also Magic, same as Tim Duncan, had 3 out of 5. So ratio-wise, so far, out of all these guys, Shaq's got the highest percentage of finals MVPs per finals win.
Well, my thing with Shaq isn't so much that he's not a great player. It's just that he had so many I don't want to say lackluster, but he had the potential to be the greatest player ever.
You're right.
And he says it, he even acknowledges it. Kobe Bryant had said it in the past. He didn't work to the level he needed to, and not that it takes lowers his order a ton.
No, it does.
But I think
when you have would have been a lot longer.
When you have
a lot more dominant.
When you're 7'2", have real skill, have moves, and you're towering over every other player, and by your 10th year you're already kind of on the steep decline. Because after 2002 he was every year worse and worse.
Yeah.
And he played 8 years after that. He retired in 2011 or 2010 was his last year. Mm-hmm. And even in Miami, he was great the first year. The second year, he was good, but nowhere where he was even a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Then in Phoenix, he was mediocre at best, to put it nicely. And then
after the Heat, I mean, it kind of fell off. One more thing I'll say about Shaq, and then we'll let Hutch get on a Magic.
He's got to speed it up. Magic.
Yeah, we got to speed it up. But Shaq is the only player other than Will to have his jersey retired by 3 franchises. He has retired by the Magic. He has it retired by the Lakers, obviously, and also the Heat. I'm sure LeBron will also get that.
We'll see.
He will.
Maybe.
Kobe's got 2 numbers in the same franchise.
That is an interesting
That's
stat.
why he's the 3rd greatest player of all time.
Not that it means anything. But.
All right, let's get on to Magic. We're
All
taking
right.
too long.
All right, I'll try not to. I have a few points because I have a lot to say on what everybody said so far.
Yeah.
Quickly, I would say I disagree with the idea that Magic and Kareem need each other and that Kobe and Shaq need each other. Kareem needed Magic and Kobe needed Shaq. And the reason for that is because Shaq won pre and post Kobe, and Magic won without Kareem later and even early as a rookie when Kareem got hurt. So I would say, the reason I say Magic, he has basically the same resume as Tim Duncan, minus the defensive stuff. They both have 5 championships, 3 finals MVPs. Magic has 3 league MVPs. But to me at least, I think Magic, to win 9 in 12 years, that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's absurd.
And that's, and you could say, well, what other teams were there in the West? But to me, that's impressive. He did what he's supposed to do. When you have a great team like that, he went to 9 and 12 years. And that's where I would push back on the Kobe stuff, is because when he didn't have an All-NBA big man on his roster, he never won a playoff series. Not one. And I can point to several years LeBron went to finals without even hardly an all-star on his team. So for me to put Kobe right next to LeBron all time, I gotta have some more individual success.
I'm glad you moved LeBron at 2, have him next to him.
I'm saying right in the same echelon.
He caught you.
Right next to Jordan.
Also, I mean, you can, on the flip side, you can say Kobe Bryant is the only player ever to win back-to-back finals without an top 75 player, which
Is
has never been.
Gasol not in the top 75?
It's not.
Is
And
Kyrie
That
Irving?
is criminal.
No.
Oh, they didn't win back-to-back, but
Having
But regardless, he was an All-NBA big man at that time. And Kobe's resume post-Shaq, I mean, Shaq leaves, they miss the playoffs. They lose to the Suns, give up a 3-1 lead, lose to the Suns in 5. And during that span, he's requesting a trade on Stephen A's radio show. And there's a leaked video of him in the parking lot slamming all of his teammates. Like, he was an awful teammate, awful leader, and he just never did anything on his own.
I mean,
Never even went to a conference finals on his own. Never won a playoff series.
I mean, I guess on your own is like a kind of a vague term, but
Not a series.
In fairness, not a lot of people do win on
If he's third all time, he should do something.
I mean, who?
Because
I mean, some of those Lakers teams,
Which champion has won?
Magic Johnson. He went in without Kareem.
Yeah, but I don't think Kareem was hurt that entire series.
No. At the end of his in '91.
and he had
Kareem was already
Worthy.
gone.
I mean,
Yeah, but he had Worthy.
Yeah, Worthy was good.
and
Worthy has a Finals MVP.
I know both of them were already getting old at that point.
I mean, Worthy's a guy.
They
That's
won
not
early,
like
they won late.
Yeah, but it's not like
the
it's
Lakers had
not
Chris
like he's a
Mim
nobody.
as a center. Like, that's not like comparing Worthy to like guys like Chris Mim and like Walton. That's not like.
Yeah, like in fairness, I mean, like James Worthy's better than Pau Gasol.
Well, even when Magic came back, because he came back for a part season in 1995, they even made the playoffs that year. They had missed the playoffs.
He's a
the
great
last few years.
player.
To do stuff like I don't know. That's where I fall short with Kobe personally. I think he was just an individual stats guy.
He was never efficient either. He was always
never
a shot
efficient,
chucker. And
yeah.
one thing I'll say is when you talk about black marks on people's resume, he's got 2 black marks, 04 and 08. And he was bad in both of those. I know you're going to turn over your notebook and take a look at that, but he was not good in those series. And to lose to the Pistons, and even though if you're going to say Shaq played bad as well, Kobe did not shoot the ball well that series, and they were both bad.
No, so that's his worst finals in terms of like efficiency and overall. And he's still. And I do have a few numbers. And he did beat the Spurs, by the way, in that.
But he lost to the Pistons in the final, so
He
that's
did.
still a black mark, definitely.
And by the way, LeBron has
And he
2
didn't beat the
worst finals.
Spurs.
than
He
that.
also, one thing I want to point out, he didn't, and we're not talking about LeBron, he didn't beat the Spurs either. He had Shaq, once again. He had Shaquille O'Neal to go against Tim Duncan, so it's not like he beat Tim Duncan.
And if you look at this run, like in the 03-04 run, like Shaq was not really that good at all.
But he also had...
He was better in the final series, but
This is what I'm saying, too. It's the matchups as well. Like, Shaq having to be guarded by Tim Duncan is so much more difficult, and you're going to say Bruce Bowen's a good defender. He's nowhere near the level of Kobe Bryant. Like, being able to guard a player like Kobe, he's not even in the same stratosphere. Tim Duncan and Shaq on the all-time list, if that's your matchup, like, that's just like a wash right there. Like, you should be, like, showing that your numbers are going down a little bit. Like, it's not an easy matchup to have there. And also, like, once again, he beat Duncan on the way there. They had the better team. By far, Shaq and Kobe is debatably the greatest duo ever in terms of having 2 top 10 players to ever play the game in your roster. Like, you should be winning that.
It's either them or Kareem and Magic.
Yeah, and the fact that they even got one, the fact that the Spurs got one against him in 03 with a wash David Robinson on the squad, I think that was a young Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili wasn't even there yet.
he was there.
He wasn't an all-star, though. Manu Ginobili's a 2-time all-star and had one in 2011 and maybe another one in, like, 07. Nowhere near the player was, probably an 8-point-per-game player, right? Not even that, something like that.
In that series, Ginobili had 14.
Okay, 14 a game, yeah.
And Parker had 16.
14 and 16
Duncan
a game.
had 20.
Okay, yeah, and Duncan was also the best defender on that team and put up a quadruple-double in the finals almost against the Nets that year. But yeah, no. Tim Duncan, same amount of rings as Kobe. One more Finals MVP than Kobe, double the MVPs as Kobe, more all-defensive teams than Kobe, and he didn't have a top 10 player to ever play the game in his roster. When he got there, David Robinson was clearly over the hill. He was still decent there for the first ring, obviously. He was a good player. Tim Duncan, once again, grabbed the team, scruff of the neck. This is my squad. I'm going to win my Finals MVP in the second year, Rookie of the Year as well in the first year. Came in, just very experienced player. won them in 03.
First team All-NBA in his rookie year.
First team All-NBA in his rookie year, whereas Kobe wasn't good until his third year.
He was an All-Star his second year. In his first year, they didn't really play him at all. And like I'm not going to get into like the history of like the high school and stuff, but Kevin Garnett was the first player to come out of high school in like 20 years in '95, the year before. And like they weren't really playing high school guys like those kind of minutes. Like that's why he fell. He went to 13th. Teams like the Nets with John Calipari, they passed on him simply because he was out of high school.
But if you're that guy, you still should be getting it done. KG, Dwight Howard went 1 overall. LeBron went 1 overall.
I'm saying that's afterward. Like the narrative had changed because of guys like Kobe Bryant.
KG was also a top 5
Alrighty.
pick.
We could argue about this one all night. We got to get on to our third segment. So we'll leave it at that. It is interesting that none of us had Kareem.
That is.
Universally almost. Most people would have him, or a lot of people would culturally say Kobe. Just because a lot of people are big Kobe fans. But
Kareem was my next guy.
Yeah.
That's the next person I would have had.
That's going to wrap it up for the day. Thank you for watching this episode of the 4 Point Play. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out some of our other content.
Like and subscribe.